What is this? You say free bird, like as in flying bird? That's funny.
I'll check that one out.
Or I also say, oh, I did. Oh my God, I did it already. I did it twice in the first set. I also did Slayer, Me and Bob and McGee, Brown Eyed Girl, and every Pearl Jam song ever written. It was the greatest set ever, and you missed it. You got to get it earlier.
Yeah.
It could be the first song, and I still say it, like first song. I'm like, I did it last set. I'm walking in with my guitar, and people are going, Freebird. I go, I played it last set.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of 1001 Album Complaints. It's the show where friends and musicians get together to discuss an album from Robert Dimery's list of the 1001 albums you must hear before you die. So each week we pick an album at random from that list, we listen to it, we analyze it, we do some deep dives, and give you, dear listener, our opinions on whether or not this album deserves to be on the list. At the end of the episode, we'll all vote and pick next week's albums. And if you haven't heard this week's album, don't worry, we're going to be dropping in plenty of clips along the way. So this week, we've been listening to Aretha Franklin's 1967 album titled I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You. And before we get into the music, I first want to dive into our listener mailbag. Now, our co-host Rob usually reads these, but he sent me the email credentials last week. So let's open up the bag and see what we got. So listener Brett from Addison, Texas writes in, ever since Loretta Lynn died, I've been re-listening to a lot of her old albums, and I stumbled upon your episode about her. I started listening to her back in 2004 when she sang with Jack White, and I still think that she's one of the all-time greats. Now, one of y'all compared her to Ice Cube, which had me rolling.
Who compared that?
And, any plans on reviewing Conway Twitty? Well, thank you, Brett. I don't know if Conway Twitty is on the list. We'll have to dig into that.
Maybe he can be on the, if we do another Glaring Emissions.
Right. I think the Ice Cube reference, Tom had compared or was saying that Loretta Lynn's as big of a gangster as NWA. So I think that might be what Brett was talking about there, as like a 5-foot mother of 6. That she had a lot more street cred than those guys. But
that's a fairly timely piece of mail, because I do feel like the album we're listening to today, I do feel like Aretha Franklin and Loretta Lynn, despite being like polar opposites musically, have some similarities that way.
Oh yeah, we'll get into those. Yeah. Next up, we've got a letter here from Cheryl from Fredericksburg, Virginia. So Cheryl writes in and says, my husband listens to your podcast, which means I often hear it in the background around the house. He's a huge Weather Report fan, and I don't understand how anyone can listen to that music. We've gotten into plenty of arguments about how terrible and boring it is. I'd rather have silence than whatever it is they do. I wanted to write in and tell you that I enjoyed overhearing your podcast about the album way more than any actual Weather Report album. Boosh from Cheryl. Take that.
Spite is a powerful motivator. Like, that is a woman who really doesn't like Weather Report.
I wonder if she'd actually rather listen to like an actual weather report than
just turn on the Weather Channel as they go through what that computerized voice that tells you what your weather's going to be. I just can't wait for Cheryl's husband to hear this and restart the fight about Weather Report. All right. Well, anyway, Brad and Cheryl, thank you for the email. And don't forget that if you're enjoying the show, go ahead and subscribe or write a review on your favorite podcasting platform, or better yet, tell a friend. Don't forget that you can always send us an email at 1001 Album Complaints and let us know what we got right and what we got wrong. So as I mentioned, this week we're diving into the world of Southern soul with the Queen of Soul herself, Aretha Franklin. So I want to get right into the music, and then we'll come back with some introductions, our special guest for the week, as well as our tweet length reviews. So here's the first track off this album, a little known sleeper tune. There's this YouTube channel where they go to tribal people and give them like Western foods, like people from Afghanistan and Mongolia. Like they'll give them like angel food cake or a cheesecake, and they have them like react to it. I'm pretty sure if you played this song in front of them, they'd be like, oh yeah, it's Aretha. We know that.
Yeah. But that Big Mac was delicious.
All right, so let's throw things around the room here to our friends in the studio for those quick tweet-length reviews. Let's throw it over to Alan first.
So I was doing a little bit of research for this album, and I came across this old sort of original Rolling Stone review, which, among other things, claimed of this album, the sidemen weren't very good, the drums weren't hard enough, the guitar was weak, and the production lacked polish. As if I couldn't like this album anymore, hearing that just put it over the top for me.
Phil.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is classic, must listen to. I think you sort of took the words out of my mouth, right? Like, this is what does music sound like printed on a gold plate and blasted into space, sort of, sort of stuff, right?
Yes.
It's like a generational talent, tracks excellently with excellent players.
Who knew? You take a great singer and great players.
Right. Magic formula. All right, so we do have a special guest I mentioned this week. Her name is Laura Lea. Laura Lea has been a working musician for the last 20 years. She's the lead singer and frontwoman of the band Laura Lea and Trip Fabulous. She also plays guitar and piano. She writes music, which you can find here on Spotify or wherever you're listening. And she plays something like 200 shows a year at clubs and venues between New York and Virginia. She's one of the hardest working musicians I've ever had the pleasure to play with, as well as just overall an amazing person. So Laura Lea, welcome.
Thanks, Adam.
The Twitter feed is yours.
Okay. First, are we going to talk about how I know each other?
Oh, yeah. I guess it was, 2 years that I played with you guys? Back in 2004
I'm not sure. Yeah. Whew. The best 2 years of the band.
Oh, shucks.
Adam used to be my keyboard player.
Yeah, man. It was a
checks in the mail.
Blast. Yeah.
It was so wonderful. The girls loved him.
That's the only reason I was there.
Adam's just the eye candy.
which is a sad state of affairs.
Well, at least generally on this podcast with the rest of us, that's
compared to us.
Oh, debatable.
He was the eye candy. Okay, so my Aretha tweet. So she is legit the only woman that ever made me. I listened to her voice and I said, I'm just going to quit singing. Why am I a singer? I have no business in this business. What am I doing? That's everything. And Adam, and I hate to correct you because it shows my age, but I've been doing this for 27 years.
27 years. Damn. That's a whole lot of
26 without a day job.
Now that's something to hang your hat on.
So you're probably the most mentally well-adjusted of
oh yeah, absolutely. Like, everyone becomes a musician because they're emotionally healthy, right? I made it my job to be the center of attention because I'm all good.
Well, that's awesome. Well, welcome. We're really happy to have you.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
All right. So this is Adam, and my review is this week's album contains the song that Rolling Stone, aside from their terrible review of the album itself back in the 60s, Rolling Stone has named the #1 greatest song of all time is on this album. So I can't imagine I'll have a lot of complaints. I mean, I'll try my best. You know what? The album title's too long. There. Okay, that's about all I'll be able to come up with for complaints on this album. But welcome, everyone. So here we go. Let's dive into this a bit. So we often pose the question, how did Robert Dimery come up with a specific album to throw on this list, especially when the artist has any more than 10 albums in their catalog? Aretha's got something like 40. But I can see why Dimery chose this, mainly because it's kind of this pivotal album in her career that we'll see as we dive into it. So I'll also have to pat myself on the back here. I did actually read a book for this week's episode called Respect, The Life of Aretha Franklin by David Ritz. Great interviewer. He interviewed her siblings and a ton of R&B stars from back in the day, from Ray Charles to Eartha Kitt to Etta James to Bill Withers. And my big asterisk there on that reading a book. I read enough of it to get me up to this album, which was about 1/5. So I don't know.
Rob would be disappointed.
He would. Yeah. Rob burns through books like nobody's business.
It's funny, whenever I hear the word respect in this context, I can only think of the, do you all remember the Ali G show at all? The respect. It's for some reason that word has been co-opted for me, but
I always think about the Eddie Murphy when he's like, R-S-E-T-T-T, when he's doing his dad.
Yes.
Lillian.
Much better reference.
All right, so this album was released on March 10th of 1967. And just to get into a little bit of the history, Aretha famously comes from Detroit, Michigan. Detroit was not known to be a very musical or artistic town back in the 40s, but during the 40s and 50s, there was this great migration of Southern blacks looking to move out of the South, move up the economic ladder into prosperity. So a lot of those Southern blues and gospel traditions were essentially transplanted during the 40s and 50s. So Aretha was born in Memphis in 1942, the daughter of Barbara Vernice Franklin, who was a gospel singer and pianist, and a very famous Detroit preacher named C.L., which stands for Clarence LaVaughn Franklin. C.L. Franklin was really involved in the civil rights movement, but also very connected in the gospel and blues scene in Detroit. And so Aretha, as a child, was just a savant. Her siblings recall how easily she picked up piano. She just had something special about the way she sang. And her father, who was known to have these late night parties in Detroit where Art Tatum would show up, Ella Fitzgerald and Duke Ellington would show up. They remember her father waking her up to come downstairs and play piano and sing for Nat King Cole. So this is the world that she's swimming in as a child. So she learned to play piano by ear from a very early age. I'm just going to be dropping names all over the place. Smokey Robinson was friends with Aretha's older brother, Cecil, and noted as they were hanging out in the neighborhood just how talented she was. Aretha was the only one of the siblings, though, who went with her father on the road in his traveling ministry. Again, we talk about C.L. Franklin being kind of a raucous gospel preacher. Since this is a rock and roll music podcast, we have to dive into the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. In this book, they have a story that Ray Charles was talking about how C.L. Franklin would throw the best orgies. We're talking about a preacher throwing the best orgies. Ray Charles said, when it came to pure sex, they were wilder than me, and that's saying something. The cats like it with the cats, the chicks liked it with the chicks, and no one minded mixing it up. I got a kick out of seeing how God's people were going for it hard and heavy every which way.
Ray Charles is blind, right?
Yes. Which
double checking there.
I think I finally found Jesus.
Which just makes me think of somebody whispering in Ray Charles' ears, "What's going on?" Like the scene unfolding. Now, all that sex, drugs, and rock and roll sadly dovetails into what I'm going to call our special victims unit moment, which is kind of a sad thing that we see in the history of music here. We talked about Loretta Lynn. She was very early. I think she got married at 13. We saw that Elvis got married to I think she was 14 or something like that. But this one may be the worst. So Aretha's father, C.L. Franklin, quote unquote, had a child with a 12-year-old in 1940. The books and the literature say had a child, but he essentially raped a 12-year-old and she had his baby. So this is what Aretha is growing up in. So she's got some emotional baggage that she carries with her throughout her life.
That's a bad scene. That's and this is like mid 50s. Is she like living on the road?
So her dad, impregnated the 12-year-old in 1940. So this is before Aretha was born, but sure. It kind of sets the tone for things that she'll find out later in life about her father. Her siblings said that she never opened up about this stuff and that the only place she ever really released it was when she sang, which again kind of makes sense. So we flash forward to 1955. Aretha started traveling with her father's gospel act. Mm-hmm. Aretha also has a child 2 months before her 13th birthday. So again, a very rough upbringing of being on the road and being exposed to this type of stuff. She made it work. Her grandmother ultimately took care of the children that she would have as she worked her way up the ranks. So continuing here with some of the background, right? So Aretha turns 19 and she gets married to a guy named Ted White, who's 30 years old. He's essentially a pimp from Detroit, but becomes her manager. So Ted White and Aretha Franklin are kind of these polar opposites, the oil and the water, who never really mix, but they make it work. There's a lot of speculation that Ted White really just used her for money, kind of exploited her just to get her out there because that was his personality. But she also needed somebody to get her out there.
Well, is it true that, I don't know if you came across this at all in your research, that he also wrote some of the lyrics to some of her songs? Particularly, the one that comes to mind specifically is like the Dr. Feelgood, where it's like, oh, this guy's great. He satisfies me in every way. And it's like, did you just write those lyrics and give those to her?
Yeah. It's really odd. Here, sweetheart, sing this song about how big my package is. Like it's really.
But it's going to be a gospel song. But
Right.
It's going to be about how awesome I am in bed.
Yeah. There's also another song that we're going to get into on the focus list where one of Ted White's, he had a stable of writers back in Detroit who wrote a song for Aretha. And it's almost as if this friend saw the terrible relationship that Aretha was in and then wrote about how she probably felt. It's really interesting that she's singing these songs that's kind of talking about her relationship. All right, so Aretha finally kind of hits it, and she gets a record deal with Columbia Records, where she stayed between 1960 and 1967, where she published 7 albums. The problem is, though, she could never really find her voice. She was always kind of on the precipice of fame, but it never really hit. Either she and her manager, Ted White, had disagreements with how Columbia was promoting her. She wanted to do standards. Columbia wanted her to do other stuff. She wanted to do all blues. It was kind of a mishmash. She never really was able to find her voice. And even in 1964, she found herself almost trying to compete with Barbra Streisand, covering Streisand tunes, trying to get that hit. One of the things I got from the book is that all she wanted was hits. There came a point where she didn't really even care about the material. She just wanted hits. So her contract with Columbia runs out, and there's this guy named Jerry Wexler who's working for Atlantic Records. Now, Atlantic at this time is honestly what they're calling a mom and pop shop, who was very focused on gospel and soul. And in interviews, Etta James was talking about Jerry Wexler and was saying that Columbia didn't have success with Aretha because Columbia didn't know how to reach black listeners. People would later say that Columbia executives lived in these ivory towers. They were all college professors. But Wexler noted that if you wanted to have black hits, you had to understand the black streets and work those DJs to get airplay on the black stations. So Aretha's Columbia stuff wasn't black enough for blacks, but was too black for whites. So Columbia wasn't able to pull off that crossover thing that Aretha wanted. Aretha wanted to hit on the R&B charts and then take off into the pop charts.
And this kind of speaks to what we spoke to recently with the Michael Jackson with Thriller, right? And how like Thriller was able to sort of break down these artificial barriers around like what was considered black and white music at the time, right? And things were sort of charted different, thought about different, marketed differently, right? Totally. It wasn't just music, right?
Right. And this guy, Jerry Wexler, really understood how that happened, how you work a hit through the different avenues and how to promote and how to
the different markets. Like he knew how to bring the product to market. There were different rules to different marketplaces.
Yeah.
Bizarre. Seems bizarre. Well, especially now when it's like it's all on the internet and it's just like this stuff just makes itself, right? Like
so as Aretha's contract was running out, her producer at Columbia was a guy named Clyde Otis. Columbia saw the writing on the wall, and in the last year or two of her contract, realized they weren't going to get any hits and basically just wanted volume. They just wanted the rights to songs. They were trying to recoup her initial contract amount by basically just getting royalties. Have her pump out 10 albums, 100 songs, whatever it is. We just want volume. Aretha finished up her contract. Enter this guy, Jerry Wexler. So Jerry Wexler had been trying to get in touch with Aretha, knowing that her contract ended. He found himself in Muscle Shoals. So he was working for Atlantic Records, and he was down there with these blues-minded white musicians who are actually called The Wrecking Crew. There's a documentary on, I think, Amazon or Netflix called The Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, it's like Fame Studios, right?
Yeah,
it kind of looks like a mattress warehouse or like a carpet, a carpet warehouse distributor.
It is not sexy at all.
I mean, honestly, no music studio I've ever been in looks sexy from the outside.
So in Fame Studios, Wexler was really happy with the way they were making these arrangements. So at Columbia, a lot of your bigger studios, you had these professional musicians who were writing charts, making arrangements. The talent would come in and they would give these charts to the musicians, and it was all laid out ahead of time. The guys at Fame Studios were doing it differently. They had a rough idea of the song and they would just jam. So it was a much more organic feel, a lot more, I'll say sloppy, but that's what makes it beautiful. Wexler noted that they looked like hillbillies, but they were the secret geniuses of a good groove of this Southern soul movement.
It is funny. There is a look about those guys, like especially compared to, I don't know when Motown was in relation to this, like time wise, but I feel like the Motown guys like looked the part to an extent, and then you see these like Muscle Shoals guys that are definitely look like they're ready to cut the next like Lynyrd Skynyrd album.
Yeah, right. Which is where all that good stuff was done. Yeah, if you have a chance, go look at that. It's called The Wrecking Crew. I think there's actually two documentaries out there. So Wexler ultimately winds up convincing Aretha to join him. He sells this Muscle Shoals concept that these guys are really down there, and it vibed with Aretha because she was not a trained musician. She played by ear. She played by feel. She couldn't read sheet music. So I think that kind of perked her ears when she heard that there was a group of people making slammin' music. Like turn on the radio and there's a Wilson Pickett hit, and that was done at Muscle Shoals. So I think that kind of helped push her over to Jerry Wexler. She gets signed with Atlantic. They go down to Muscle Shoals to start recording this album. Again, this is the same studio where Percy Sledge cut When a Man Loves a Woman. There's a lot of electricity around this studio. Now, the owner of the studio, this guy named Rick Hall, was known for being overbearing, and Aretha's husband, Ted, already wasn't thrilled. This guy had a reputation for just being a pain in the ass, so he was a little hesitant. So they were set to begin recording at Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals at the end of January 1967. Aretha had done a lot of rough arrangements of a bunch of these songs, so she brought in the rough cuts and the rough ideas. They give it to the Wrecking Crew, and on day one, magic happens. They're all in the studio. They're freaking out because they started recording I Have Never Loved a Man, which is the title track off this album. And the musicians are giddy. After each take, they're running into the studio like little kids, super excited. Aretha goes into the booth and they're all freaking the hell out because they realize they've got something special here. So day one done. They got I Have Never Loved a Man in the bag. They managed to get that song done. And then they started a couple other bass tracks of some of the other songs. They're all celebrating. Some booze gets involved, and a couple people tell it some different ways, but somebody said that maybe the one of the horn players made a pass at Aretha, or somebody said something racist. But essentially, Ted White ends up in a fist fight with the owner of Fame Studio. So everything goes to hell. Ted and Aretha get on a plane and head back to New York. So now Jerry Wexler's freaking the hell out because he knows he has lightning in a bottle. He's got this magic thing, but Aretha just left and everything's up in the air. So put yourself in his shoes, okay? You're the producer. You know you have a hit on your hands, and your talent just left, and you have nothing.
And you just got punched in the face by
and you just got
a piece of work. Man, this guy sounds like a real asshole.
So Wexler takes the one finished song, puts it on acetate, and sends it all over the country. Not hedging his bet, but maybe calling Aretha's bluff. So he sends it out to all these R&B markets. The song is a super hit. So like 3 days later, everyone's requesting it. The phone lines are lighting up. And I think 5 days later, Aretha calls and says, okay, let's give it another shot.
Wait, so they released it it was released as a single initially?
Well, here's the problem. Everyone wanted the song, but they only had one song, and that's not enough for a single 45. You need two songs. Right,
so they were just sending out these one-sided 45s, right? To like record stations, right?
Rather, Atlantic started freaking out because everyone was asking for this and they didn't have anything to sell. So Aretha comes back to New York. They bring the Muscle Shoals guys back up to a studio in New York. So they cut the song Do Right Woman, Do Right Man and slam that on the other side of this 45. Aretha has her first hit. They did at Atlantic in 2 weeks what Columbia couldn't do in 10 years. Aretha is now a star.
So Do Right Woman, Do Right Man is tracked in New York. And that's almost like just so they have something to put on the other side of the record, right? Like
they had started tracking it in Muscle Shoals. They came up and finished it off as quickly as possible. Again, just to get something out the door to start making money.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think it's always funny hearing, not funny, but just gross like mismanagement or like miscasting of talent. It's like you had this person in your stable, you know, and got 10 albums or 9 albums or whatever it was, and you couldn't capitalize on it. It's just like, man, that's kind of pathetic.
So it went straight to the top of that first single, which had I Never Loved and the Do Right Woman, Do Right Man, straight to the top of the R&B charts, then straight to the top of the pop charts, where it competed with Penny Lane by the Beatles, the Turtles, So Happy Together. So she had her crossover hit. And the next single they released were Respect and Dr. Feelgood. So her trajectory just went through the roof after that second single dropped there.
No, I think the history is good because like a lot of, you know, these artists are obviously famous and household names, but you know, I didn't know a lot of that sort of backstory.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Aretha Franklin, like for real.
And there's also a bunch of movies and documentaries about Aretha that I should probably get into and watch at some point.
I didn't really know any of these more tragic. Tragic's not the right word, but like definitely difficult elements of our life. I think tragic is fair, right?
A lot of strife, a lot of adversity.
Yeah, like I didn't know any of
that. That always makes for a good musician, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like it gives you something to write about, and not only something to write about if you're not even writing your own lyrics. Like, it gives you that passion. It makes you feel
something to draw
It makes you
from.
feel what you're creating more than if somebody wrote a sad song for you and you weren't really sad about anything, you'd just be like, la la la, sad song. But you know, if somebody wrote a sad song for you, or if you wrote your own sad lyrics and you're just like,
just really give it, yeah.
You know,
sure.
Like it almost like it's like, you know, therapeutic to get that out. And sometimes, especially in that day and age, I don't know if Aretha would have had access to like, you know, a regular therapist or somebody to talk to like get that, you know what I mean? Like to get that all out. And, you know, you do that through music. You do that through your art.
I'm going to guess at like 13 or 14, she probably did.
Well, she was notably silent on all of this. She said something like pain is a very personal thing,
and Adam, as you had said, her siblings noted that she didn't ever speak of it. You know,
right, and
you know,
even the guy who wrote the book that I read, Ritz, I think was the last name. He met with her and said, "I want to write your biography," and she's like, "Yeah, this sounds great." And then he was like, "But I actually want to like get the real story," and she was like, wouldn't open up at all. It might have been her autobiography. She spent less than 1 page writing about the death of her mother, which according to her siblings was one of the most devastating moments of her entire life. Like it could have taken up an entire book, and she just kind of glossed over it. So again, her siblings also say that that's, you know, you can see in her singing, that's where she released it.
Yeah, that's her pain there. You know, like everybody's born with vocal cords, but not everybody can throw all that onto them and make them really do something.
Right.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, like you can tell when somebody is kind of mailing it in vocally or singing for reasons other than that's just what they feel compelled to do. Yeah. You know,
you can feel it when they feel it. You know, like those songs resonate with other people because the pain reaches out and like grabs you too. You know, you're like, oh, I feel that.
Totally.
This album also made me appreciate how nuanced her voice can be. I mean, truthfully, I think I had listened to, the big hits. Maybe I knew 3 Aretha tunes.
I think from like a sort of like from both an engineering standpoint and just like the human instrument standpoint, like there are some songs on this that are just superb, right? Like this has the wonderful confluence of, sort of like a generational female talent, right? And her recording sort of with peak old world technology. And I don't mean that in a good way or a bad way. I just mean like that has a sound, right? And right after 1967, 1969, like all of this stuff would move over to Transformers, right? Everything would start sounding like Rumors, right? Like not long after this, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying everything starts sounding like
just
Rumors.
Different.
Yeah, it's just different. And like there are just times when like it's like she knows how to work the microphone just right, and there's like it's distorting.
I was just going to mention the distorting, yeah.
But it's like distorting like a guitar player knows how to make the amp break up, right? And it's like, God. Yeah. And that's happening live too. Like, this is my other thing. And this is something that somebody else clued me on, but I'd just be curious to talk about it for the rest. This piano is out of tune.
Yes, it is. I can feel it in my teeth. Yeah.
Oh my God, Laura Lea, I love you because that's.
Do you know what I mean, Adam?
That's where I feel out of tune stuff in my teeth. Oh my God!
I know it's like under.
Yeah.
Nobody ever understood that the way. My daughter is the only other human on the planet that understands the feeling out of tune in your teeth.
I've never felt that.
Yeah, she's like, why? Is it like a pain?
It's not a pain. It's almost like you can hear it in your tooth.
It's a resonance.
It's weird. Yeah, it's like a vibration in your tooth. Yeah.
Like you guys know
like the drill of a dentist.
When you tune up an instrument, you get the whoa, 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 whoa. When things are out, not only can you hear it, but it's this weird. It's like it hits your soul.
It's like a weird pressure.
Absolutely.
It's hitting your,
I feel it.
But I think some of these older recordings in general, stuff from the 60s, because they don't have auto-tune, right? Like at all, anywhere. They don't even have strobe tuners, right? Although Adam would say that's not true, right? Like I think you looked this up. But it doesn't matter. Like it creates this broader range of acceptance for your ear. Like that out-of-tune piano, there might be times where it's like, but it also gives you a little breathing room on other notes. It creates like a slightly wider like space for error, right? As the listener. And it just creates this beautiful like effect, right? Because like you can listen in a slightly more relaxed way, right? Whereas like everything now, modern music I feel is just, it's so tight. It's like the tighter you have to get, the more of a technician you have to become. And that's not to say she's not a technician, right? That'd be a ridiculous statement. But in a different way, it's like she's also like a pitcher almost. It's like she not only can throw strikes, but she has this way of, and the band are like, they're expanding the strike zone as well. And it's cool.
There's just an organic quality to it. What's funny is I didn't even notice the out-of-tune piano, and, maybe I'm not listening closely enough, but like I definitely noticed the organic nature of it, that it sounds like they're clearly like playing live. Some of these are probably like, I wouldn't be surprised if they're first take, kind of one take wonders. But also reminds me of what Tom always brings up, which is that idea of like the human ear likes drums that are not done by a drum machine because they can detect those imperfections and it feels real. Like I wonder if there's some of that, kind of going on too.
I think, Alan, what you were saying about the organic, there's something about that. Think of the Amy Winehouse album.
Yeah.
And the effort that these modern producers went through to make it sound like this. Right. And these guys weren't trying to make it sound like this. This was just the way it sounded. I know that was just a bunch of word salad there, but it's just fascinating. And probably a reason why these kind of tunes and this sound hung on for so long.
Yeah, it's like something in the water, it's just, it's there.
All right, you guys ready to dive into some tunes here? We're going to get into our focus list.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to dive into our focus list here. This first tune that we're going to listen to is called I Never Loved a Man. All right, there you go. So that's I Never Loved a Man.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's a 9/8. I think it's 9/8. I just nerded up the room. I know I just nerded up the room so quick. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're in the right place.
Although I need to go back to school now.
It's one of those ambiguous, like 3 vibes sort of situations, right?
Yeah.
Well, I had read that and this kind of makes sense, that it took them a while to figure out what they wanted the feel to be, because down tempo is probably the wrong word for this, because I don't know what the BPM actually comes out to, but it feels really plodding and slow, like in a good way. And so I think it took them a while to kind of lock in to what the groove was going to be for this song. But I think the rhythm's great. I think it's really subtle, but the bass really I think the bass drives the song in a lot of ways. Like it's not like
hidden behind the keyboard, but it's cool.
It's
right?
like kind of lurking around in the background a little bit. And I do think it's sort of a nice kind of, I guess, contrast to what you would hear in like Motown with like James Jamerson, who was very busy and very melodic, whereas this is more like, I'll play a fill here and there, but it's really just kind of bouncing the song along. Like, it's a great song.
This is actually my favorite example on the record of like the microphone breaking up and like the wall of sound horns and the way like the out of tune piano, and I use out of tune loosely, like, it's just not like, it's not ready for an orchestra, right?
Right. Alan, you said plodding. I think that right. You said plodding along. I think that is a great description, because it almost feels too slow, but it still works.
It feels like everyone's trying to catch up a little bit,
yes.
or trying to like hold themselves back,
And it's like the power builds as the tempo does not change, right? Like,
oh yeah, that's
like
cool.
It becomes, there's a weird like tension that builds.
So this is the song that was written by Ronnie Shannon, who was a friend of Ted White's back in Detroit. And this is where I was thinking, like, he's back in Detroit watching Ted be a total piece of shit to Aretha. And then he writes this song knowing it's going to be sung by Aretha, because there's lines in here like, I'd leave you if I could. The way you treat me is a shame. Like, yeah, like that's general blues material. But man, that hits hard for this guy, Ted White, who was very, very brutal. There are stories about him, pushing her around and smacking her around in the studio and
well, I guess also, if you're Ronnie Shannon and you're like, all right, let's see, like, what am I going to draw from for material? You're like, I bet you she'll be able to identify with this song. Right?
She'll be able to latch on and give it some emotion.
Well, and she definitely does. Like, this is, I actually wrote down in my notes, when your voice is a weapon, like in a good way, because dude, when she hits that awesome. The first never, and even one of them in the second chorus, like I was like, oh shit, like it like snapped me out of whatever I was doing, because it is just like raw power. But to your point earlier, Phil, she's also very controlled. So it's not just like I'm screaming and that's where my sweet spot is. It's like, no, I can kind of dial back and kind of throttle up or down where I need to. And it's just, it's just totally a singular voice.
Yeah, and it's funny too because at the 1 minute and 50 mark, she says the line about loved a man, and it's kind of like this breathy, whispery thing. And oh my god,
yeah, it's like a 2-part harmony.
Sexy. It's like just perfect. She's just fantastic. I mean, the bridge is super tasty in this song as well. Yeah, well done. Aside from this being the title of the album again, which I think doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
She's actually playing piano in this, right? Or in a lot of songs on the album.
Yeah, that's right. She played the acoustic piano in this, right?
Right, because there's also an organ, I think, maybe.
Yeah, not the Wurlitzer at the beginning.
Right, yeah. Wurlitzer or Rhodes, I'm not sure which.
I will admit, and maybe it's because I've seen most of the performances I've seen are more like later in her career where she's more of like the front, where she's kind of out walking around and strutting around. But I didn't realize that she played so much piano like back in the day. You know, when I saw that she had been all over this album on piano, it was it was a surprise to me.
All right, so we're going to jump next into the next song on our focus list, which is Respect. But first, I want to play for you the original version. Yes, I said it. This is a cover. The original version was by... Well, the snare hits are kind of badass.
Oh, you mean once the intro's over?
Yeah. Aretha had been...
I'm not trying to diss Otis Redding here, but you know, it's...
I mean...
Aretha was doing her version of the song before they went into the studio for something like a year or two live. This was one of like her big songs that she would come out with. So here, I'll now drop in a little bit of Aretha. Yeah, I get it. Why they named it the greatest song of all time. I mean,
they also took that crappy intro and just sort of moved some pieces around much better like that. I think they made it about half as long.
Yep.
Just get right to the good part, right?
I feel like there's almost nothing I can add to a song like this that hasn't been said already. So I do have some notes, but I came across, and maybe one of y'all did too, that this song is actually credited as coming up with the word props, right? Because when she says to give me my proppers, people associate that. I also didn't know after the RESPECT. I always thought it said take out the PCT or something, but she's saying something.
Let's all do PCP. What? Damn.
Take care, TCB.
Also coining possibly the taking care of business kind of thing. So I thought that was cool. I never know what it said there. So
I didn't either until this week.
Clearly, this is her song. Like, it's one of those situations where you can write a song, but it's once someone takes it. And I think he even said, there's a quote that's attributed to him where he's like, "Oh, Aretha, that's a little girl that done took my song."
Yes.
But saying it, affectionately. But I mean, it's, what can you say?
Yeah, Jerry Wexler, the producer, noted that he personally played it for Otis Redding, and Otis Redding said, "The girl has taken that song from me. It no longer belongs to me." All right, well.
Well, I mean, at least he, recognized that it was over,
But what I think was cool too is like, so obviously she changed it stylistically. Like I think she kind of rearranged parts of it and added the, RESPT part. But I think when you listen to the Otis Redding version, it seems a lot more sort of just like milquetoast, like ho hum, like kind of standard like blues fare, like my woman don't give me respect. And she kind of turned it into this like anthem of kind of women's rights. And I don't know
the civil rights movement. Yeah. Like all of that.
Yeah. And I don't think any of that was like present in the original version. And so I think to not only change like the kind of arrangement or add a few pieces here to transform it into this, anthemic sort of thing, I think is just really cool.
It still holds up. This does not have Sweet Home Alabama syndrome for me, which you would think. I mean, it's on the level. Granted, I've never sang Respect, but I've heard it probably as much as I've heard Sweet Home Alabama. But this song still is amazing. It's not one of the ones where I just immediately hit next when I hear that amazing intro that the world recognizes it from the first 1 second.
Well, it's also so, we always talk about like song length and some songs are too long or whatever. This song is 2.5 minutes and it packs so much.
God.
Like it is dense and they utilize like every inch of real estate in that time. And so there's just no filler. It's just all meat.
Man.
Something else that really does it for me. I had never really listened to this song sort of. Let's try to say something intelligent about it.
Must be a new experience. Good.
And this tambourine player holds it down. And I mean it. This is fucking hard. It is hard to stay behind the beat for 2 minutes and 30 seconds like this.
On a
and it's the only,
tambourine,
tambourine can ruin the groove so easy. Like, so easy, right? Like, I was at a concert once and there was somebody in the crowd with a tambourine.
Oh, God.
It was like, holy shit, man. Like,
ruin the concert.
I'm at a concert every night and someone in the crowd has a tambourine.
why? Oh,
They just
man.
bring 'em.
Have you ever felt like that you should like slay them like a stand-up comedian would slay them?
Ooh.
You should consider that.
I do.
You got to get interactive
do.
performance.
That would be.
Yeah.
You got to go see Laura Lea. She's an insult.
Not in a
comic
mean
now.
way. I usually just say, hey, that's really helping us. It sounds great and everyone appreciates it. Everyone around you, especially.
Oh man.
And then they're just like, yay.
I think my favorite Laura Lee-ism is when the asshole in the crowd shouts "Freebird," and Laura Lea basically like everything goes silent. Like the house lights come on. She looks at the person and she's like, "Yeah, we've never heard that before, you asshole." Like it's just the greatest call out ever. Like, yeah, you're
awesome.
really, really funny. Oh my God, that's the first time anyone's ever said that.
The first time anyone's, what does this just say? Free bird, like as in flying bird? That's funny.
Check that one
Ultimate
out.
passive
Or I
aggressive.
say, I also say, oh, I did. Oh my God, I did it already. I did it twice in the first set. I also did Slayer, Me and Bob and McGee, Brown Eyed Girl, and every Pearl Jam song ever written. It was the greatest set ever, and you missed it. You got to get it earlier.
Yeah.
It could be the first song, and I still say it. Like, first song. I'm like, I did it last set. I'm walking in with my guitar, and people are going, Freebird. And I go, I just played it last set.
What is wrong with people? You should, if you're into like vulgar comedy, anyone, check out, there's a Bill Hicks. Have any of you seen this? The comedian Bill Hicks. He was kind of semi-popular in like the early 90s or something, but there's a video of him. It's super grainy at some like tiny stand-up club, and some guy keeps yelling Freebird, and he just goes on the most epic. He goes on like a 12-minute rant. He's like rolling around on the ground. He's so mad because, and then after he's done, the guy yells it again, and he's just like, "Oh my God."
Of course.
But
the best is like they'll scream like Slayer, and then like we'll play, like I'll play Raining Blood, or I'll do like the South of Heaven riff or something, and then they're like Slayer, and I'm like, we just like they don't even know.
You don't know.
They don't even know it.
that's
Or play Tom Petty. So we play Tom Petty song, and they're like, no, Tom Petty. They mean American Girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but they don't.
Yeah.
no, the Tom Petty one.
At the Ball in Cork, we had a guy with a phone, right? He had it had like the banner, it was like Sublime. So we played Santeria. And he kept it up. And we played What I Got. And he kept up just going, Sublime. And I'm like, we literally we are playing. So this is Sublime.
Be more
It's
specific.
like, play Sublime.
I was envisioning like some drunk uncle when you're playing at a wedding and they come up and they request Slayer, and you're like, okay, and you do it and just destroy the place.
Is that a common? I didn't know that people would ask for Slayer, or
Because they're playing Stump the Chick with the guitar. That's the game that people love to play. They come in and they go, oh, do you know Dave Matthews? Or like something like they think I wouldn't know. And then I do it. And then they're like, oh, I meant like the other Dave Matthews stuff.
I meant like the
Yes.
deep cuts.
Slayer. You suck.
or maybe my version is so unrecognizable. It could be that too. I think I'm so smart. I'm like, I played it. They're like, no, you really didn't. It might have been some of the lyrics, but you didn't play it.
That's just next level trolling. That's all it is.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're going to keep moving along here. The next song on our focus list is called Soul Serenade.
Only you soul. Sarah Lee. I want to be free to fly away and sing to the world about my soul. Serenade.
Holy crap, that intro is so sexy. Oh my God. Her voice, her vibrato, everything is just perfect. Sorry, I'm fanboying out here, but my God.
Yeah, this sounds like the sort of song you like do your first dance to at a wedding or something. Has a nice like slow to fast transition.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even matter what she's saying. It's perfect. She nails it. You know, like the sentiment is perfect.
Well, this was originally an instrumental. At least from what I could glean from some of the stuff online by a sax player named King Curtis, and he released the instrumental in 1964. So I don't know if she just added lyrics.
Well, isn't King Curtis? He plays sax on this album a little bit, right? Like,
yes, yeah.
I feel like it's funny. The note I had for this was the backing music is really outstanding, but I do feel like if this was just any old singer, the song would feel a little bit sort of standard, but I think she like elevates it to a place that, you know, again, like few singers actually could.
She made it an Aretha song.
Totally. Yeah. It's great. I don't normally vibe with songs like this, but yeah, it's just gorgeous.
But if you were to hold a gun to my head and tell me to pick the low point on the album, despite the intro, this is actually the tune. And my small complaint here is that it's very repetitive, just kind of does the same thing over and over and over again, which is maybe what happens when you take an instrumental song and put lyrics over it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it does kind of get a little bit repetitive. Yeah, I hear that.
There is this change that happens though. And it only happens once. And having listened to the song once, every time I hear this now, I'm waiting for this change that comes at the 2-minute and 12 mark, and we'll play it here. That little turnaround might be the ultimate tension and release, which is like, I have to wait 2.5 minutes of this same thing happening. It's minor the whole time, and then it goes major, and the sun shines for these brief 5 seconds. And I'm like, oh God, there it is. Thank you.
Well, the restraint to stay, to go back, like the restraint to not just like settle into that.
Stay on it, right?
Is impressive. Yeah, it's funny. It was so brief that it didn't even like register when I was listening to it.
Great. So let's move on. This is Dr. Feelgood. Next tune on our list.
I don't want nobody always sitting around me and my man. I don't want nobody always sitting around.
What if you can medley over that? Well, tell Jimmy second hood. He used out Hollywood.
Do people ever ask you, Laura Lea, to play Dr. Feelgood, the Motley Crue version?
And you do
And
this.
657 pound plane. Trading for about good.
Seriously, please learn this.
Oh, but that must be where they got the term from, though, right? Or is that like was that like a known term, or did she coin that too? Like much like propers.
I think that was your drug dealer back in the kind of your code for your drug dealer back in the 50s and 60s was Dr.
Even way
Feelgood.
back then, yeah, okay.
But in this case,
yeah, she's not talking about drugs.
yeah, Aretha can't wait for people to leave her house so she and her husband can get it on. And this,
Yeah, which her husband wrote their lyrics to.
Well, I saw this was one of her originals, one of like maybe 4 or 5 originals that she has on the album.
Lyrics by Ted White. I'm just kidding. That's not true.
oh, okay, all right. And I swear he doesn't rough me up, and he's really sexy and a nice guy and a good dad. Wait, what?
And he never leaves his hair shavings in the sink.
Aretha did play piano on this, which is pretty badass. And Alan, you were saying like I didn't know how great she actually was.
I mean, she sounds like just any old jazz keyboard player, just comping the chords like any old jazz keyboard player, right? Like, she sounds great, you know? Like, absolutely.
Yeah. You know what she does, and I totally took this from her with her piano playing. I love those crescendo stops, like like
Right.
I love that. I do that in almost every one of my originals. I totally stole that from her, and it's not their style at all. I don't write like any type of Aretha Franklin style, but a lot of my songs have
You
that.
writing a lot of blues and gospel stuff?
No, but a lot of my songs have that element because that just that always grabs me every time. I love that.
She has cool chord voicings too. Like, I never really thought about her as the keyboard player, but like there is a sound to the chords. Like the notes are sort of arranged a certain way relative to each other, especially on like dominant 7th chords, right? And it is interesting to think about like, that's just the way Aretha Franklin plays the 5 chord, right? But it is, like it really is, you know? So it's interesting, right? So, yeah.
I want to quickly drop in one of her live performances of this song. And we're not looking at the video, but you can just tell she's a badass because she's not looking at the keyboard. She's looking at the crowd while she plays this.
I don't mind company. Because company is all right with me. Every once in a while, don't get me wrong, people, I really don't mind company. I like people, and I tell you that company is all right with me every once in a while.
I mean, just doing that and having feel, you know, it's just, well, that's what you get when you start playing piano at 4 years old.
Well, you can tell that like she knows that when she opens her mouth, it will sound glorious. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there she has total confidence, right?
Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I wonder what that's like.
Yeah, agreed.
I definitely think it's more than having been playing since she was 4, because I've been playing since I was 3, and I still sound like I'm 3.
There's something special about her. So both her sisters, Irma and Carolyn, did backups on this, and also were interviewed for that album or for the book, and they also recognized there was just something about her. You know, they made reference also to like the Jackson family. Like Janet could sing, Tito could sing, like that whole family could sing, but man, there was something special about Michael. And it's the same thing with the Franklins, man. There was something special about Aretha.
I didn't realize her sister sang backup. There's one song in particular. Maybe it's the first one, Never Loved a Man, where there's like a real sultry moment. It's like a real mellow 2-part. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And I wondered, like, oh, is this an overdub? Like, because it sounds, but it must be her sister.
I think it's overdubbed Aretha twice.
It is. No, you think it is an overdub?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think those lead lines were all
it sounded
Aretha.
so, like, it just so tight. You know, but again, it's like, it's 1964, right? So they're not like...
67, rather.
67, yeah. Okay, good call. But still, they're still not... they're still making records like more organically than like,
Right.
the digital grid these days.
We're going to move on here to our last tune on our focus list. This one is called Do Right Woman, Do Right Man.
Take me to heart, and I'll always love you. And nobody can make me do wrong. Take me for granted, leaving love unshown. Makes willpower weak and temptation strong.
Oh, that vibrato.
I love this song.
Even her pronunciation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the way she says the words is like, it's just fantastic. Oh,
Yeah, I feel like this song, it took me a few spins to really feel it. Like, I mean, it's great out the door, like obviously, but it took a good like 4 or 5 listens to just be like, oh yeah, I'm like really settling into this. And yeah, it's just great. She's great.
so this was one of the most egregious tuning moments, Laura Lee, that you had mentioned. So I'll spin that now. There's like a moment at the 217 where I think the piano is a little funky.
A woman's only human. Guess you should.
Yeah,
Flat.
yeah, it's just a function of pick the thing you want to tune to, right? Like the organ's not going to change.
Yeah. Right.
The Wurlitzer, you're not going to raise that by a couple cents because you got to solder stuff in there
Right.
and do all kinds of crazy shit. So unless you're going to tune the piano up to match the organ or the Rhodes or the Wurlitzer, you're going to get some of that sourness in there. But that was like my one complaint in terms of the tuning stuff.
There are quite a few songs on there. I Want You Back. Michael Jackson's like, ooh, ooh, baby. And he's like flat on it. And not always. I Want to Dance with Somebody. I can't remember the part, but she's, but the love, that part. She says, love. She goes flat. I said, how do they not hear that? It hurts me. And I'm not saying that like they're like not good or anything. I'm sure that they heard it and left it on purpose.
Right. Quality control.
Like you said earlier, Phil, maybe they left it in there on purpose. Like that went a little out, but like I like it. There's flavor there. Like maybe but someone like me who just like, can feel music, like, I can feel tunes in my mouth. Like I'm like, how can I? So yeah, you're right, Adam. It goes way out right there.
There's another Aretha song, and it's interesting. I don't know. Maybe they just didn't give a shit. I don't know. But if you listen to Chain of Fools, it's not. It's that guitar, and man, that one.
Oh, the guitar. I'm thinking the horns and respect. The horns and respect are out too.
But it's crazy. But like again, like I feel like I've recorded things that like I look at it in a machine and the machine's like, nah, you're good. And I listen to it, I'm like, oh, but it sounds like shit. And then this one, I listen to it, I'm like, I know that's out of tune. It sounds fucking great.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Like I just don't know. I don't know how that works at all. So
it's weird because out of tune live equals disastrous, and then out of tune in the studio is like, that's flavor, man. We did it on purpose.
Studio magic.
Like.
Well, Laura Lee, I'm happy to finally have somebody on the podcast who can sympathize with my the same jaw thing I get.
Dental,
it's like in your jaw.
I routinely get made fun of on this podcast for overanalyzing the pitchiness of things. So thank you for validating. All right, so there we go. That's going to round out our list. So shortly after this album was released, she would be crowned the Queen of Soul. And that moniker stuck around for the rest of her life. She released nearly 30 more studio albums. She died in 2018 at the age of 76. So what we do now at the end of the podcast here is we work our way around the room and get our final votes on whether or not you think this deserves to be on the list. So let's throw it over to Laura Lea first.
I know there's no such number, but 1,000%, yes.
Boosh. Phil.
Yeah, this is an easy yes. I think this is probably one of the most sort of just enjoyable listens so far on the podcast.
Alan.
Now, this kind of sucked if you think of it. No, I'm just kidding. that'd be an ultimate heel turn. No, of course. I mean, when I think of what does like soul music sound like, it just sounds like this. It sounds like everything on this record. And I'll kind of steal a quote that I saw from Alicia Keys about this album and Aretha, which was, "A human being without an Aretha Franklin album is only half a person. And this is the one to have." So there you have it. I don't own this.
I'll give her that. Yeah.
What does that say about me?
I'll tell you what, though, just real quickly, I have to say, like, as a person who has made music their entire life, like, this is what I do. I have been a musician my entire adult life. I don't like work like another. This is what I do. And having listened to that album, it changed me. Like, it changed the way I listened to other records. It changed the way I wrote music. It's changed the way I learned music. Like, and I used to listen. I was, this Patsy Cline. I'm trying to think in my formative years. Tori Amos. It's eclectic, but this was up there in like the top 2 records that changed music for me. Changed the way I did everything, the way I thought about everything. Not just her voice, but I having been someone who played music since they were 3. I was aware, even at a really young age, of the musicality of the of the band and the way, like I was talking about the crazy time signatures. I was aware of that stuff at a young age, and like I said, it changed me like in every way. So yes, absolutely. If I hadn't heard this record before I died, I wouldn't be the same person or musician that I am.
I'm going to echo that as well and just say yes. All right, so Aretha, congratulations. You're on the list. I do want to thank Laura Lea. Before we get to picking next week's album, we're going to let Laura Lea go. We thank you so much for hanging out with us. Laura Lea, where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me. You can find my originals on Spotify, Apple, Pandora, all that stuff at Laura Lea, Lauralea, one word, Tarascus, Taraskus, 3 words, Tar, Ask Us. You can find my originals there. And then my band, we're at venues all over, up and down the East Coast. We go up from Vermont down to Key West. Bars, venues, festivals, weddings, corporate events, and you can check us out at Trip Fabulous. That's TRIPP, like take a trip with 2 P's. Fabulous, like fabulous. TripFabulous.com. Thank you so much, guys.
Awesome. We'll link all of that in the liner notes here on the episode. Laura Lea, again, thank you so much for your time, and we'll catch you around. All right, gentlemen. We are going to pick next week's album. I have the keys to the Albinator here, so we're going to give that thing a quick spin. All right, next week's album is somebody I've literally never listened to, and I've only seen them being made fun of on SNL. It's Bjork, and the album is Debut.
Oh my God, for
God,
real?
I hope it's not her debut album, because that would make me love her immediately. If it's like her 5th album, that would be the funniest thing in the world.
Whoa, okay.
This record
going from one
rips.
powerhouse to another.
Right.
Yeah.
One vocal legend to the next.
I remember listening to this record not long after, I don't know, maybe about 9 years ago, and thinking, man, if this came out today, this would be cutting edge. Now, that was 9 years ago, but it was still 20 years after it came out.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to listening to it. Awesome. All right, well, there you have it, folks. You have your homework assignment for next week. It is the album Debut by Bjork. That's going to do it for us today for 1001 Album Complaints. I'm Adam.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Phil.
Boosh.